When it comes to music, one of the genres that remain prominent to our culture is hip-hop. Nowadays, hip-hop is everywhere, and as of now, it's dominating most of the Billboard charts. Look, we got Lil Nas X, Post Malone, The Baby, Biracial Man, Logic, Travis Scott, Tyler the Creator, and many, many more. Today, I'll be showing you a quick analysis of hip-hop through its development and influence of other genres. The roots of hip-hop trace back just about 400 to 500 years. You see, the ancient African rhythms and musical traditions that survived the shock of the transportation of millions of African slaves through the Americas. 300 years later, the old sounds of Africa became the new sounds of Black America. Rapping grew its roots in the tribal chants and plantation work songs to become an integral part of Black resistance to an oppressive white society. In the 1950s, the old African folk and drum rhythms that we've seen in the past developed into something we call jazz, or blues. Most notable artists include Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Clifford Brown, and Dizzy Gillespie. From that point, Black America's music was known around the world. Later on, through the influence of 50s R&B, gospel music, and various technical innovations like the electric organ and electric guitar, Black music entered into the soul age by the 1960s. Most notable artists include James Brown, Sly Stone, and Marvin Gaye. Then, as the 1970s rolled around, disco and funk became the mainstay of many nightclubs around the United States. Most importantly, the nightclubs of New York. Disco was characterized by 4-on-the-floor beats, syncopated bass lines, string sections, horns, electric pianos, synthesizers, and electric rhythm guitars. Back to the streets of New York, young DJs were chopping up the percussion breaks from disco funk songs, even including white rock bands. This developed a style of dancing which included these percussion breaks. Well-known DJs from the Bronx like DJ Kool Herc, Africa Bambaataa, and Grandmaster Flash began mixing 2 copies of the same song to turn it into a 5-minute mix. This developed into new techniques of DJing, like cutting and scratching. This style of music, combined with the rhyming slang, smart-ass street jive of the early 70s, developed into a rhythmic street talk of rapping. And by 1979, the rest of the world became aware of what New York was working up. A 12-inch single by the Sugar Hill Gang titled Rapper's Delight became one of the fastest selling 12-inch singles in history, selling up to 60,000 copies a day and placing its mark as a staple in the early days of hip-hop. As hip-hop entered into the 1980s, this era of hip-hop was characterized by experimentation in instruments, styles, and lyrical content. In 1980, Kurtis Blow, the first rapper to appear on national television, releases his self-titled debut album, along with the hit single, The Breaks. It goes on to become the first certified gold rap song. In that same year, Blondie goes to release Rapture, the first #1 song in the US to feature rap vocals. Throughout the early 80s, most notable records include The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, and also Africa Bambaataa's Planet Rock, which was created using the Roland TR-808 drum machine, a drum machine that became a cornerstone of hip-hop production and is still used to this day. In 1984, Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin team up to launch one of the most important record labels ever, Def Jam Records. Around this time was the start of the golden age of hip-hop. The golden age of hip-hop was characterized by its diversity, quality, innovation, and influence on hip-hop after the genre's emergence and establishment in the previous decade. Most notable artists of the time period include the Beastie Boys, Biz Markie, NWA, Public Enemy, Run DMC, De La Soul, and A Tribe Called Quest, just to name a few. As the 1990s rolled by, the hip-hop landscape took a sharp turn into new territory. Lyrics were marked by an emphasis on drugs, violence, misogyny, but also political and social views. The West Coast's gangster rap had taken over. And while gangster rap helped hip-hop enter into the mainstream, gangster rap faced widespread criticism from America and the recording industry. These artists were faced with outrage by groups against their music, lawsuits for samples, clubs shutting down their performances, and radio stations refusing to play their music, being shouted out by normie artists like MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice. Most notable gangster rap artists include Tupac, Ice-T, NWA, Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, and Dr. Dre. On the other side of things, back on the East Coast, a renaissance in hip-hop in the streets of New York arise. Several New York City rappers rose out of the underground scene, putting out timeless classics. Most notable East Coast artists include Nas, the Notorious B.I.G., Wu-Tang Clan, Jay-Z, and Mobb Deep. Hip-hop in the 21st century became a major genre in popular music. Many female rappers made it onto the scene, including Missy Elliott, Lauryn Hill, Nicki Minaj, and Cardi B. While most major artists come out of the East or West Coast, Southern rappers started becoming popular after 2000. Outkast, Usher, T.I., Ludacris, 3 6 Mafia, Lil Wayne, and recently Future and Young Thug are notable artists to name a few. Midwestern artists like Eminem and Kanye West also became popular around this time. Hip-hop scenes developed in many countries, producing new sounds in the hip-hop landscape, most notably Toronto's Drake. Since the last decade, new styles of alternative hip-hop and underground rap has surfaced due to the creation of the internet and social media. Most notable works from Kendrick Lamar, Chance the Rapper, Anderson .Paak, Denzel Curry, and Brockhampton, just to name a few.